Two young werewolf brothers, who should have been growing up carefree under their parents' protection, are unexpectedly trapped in a strange place, relying on their intelligence and bravery. They manage to escape from the dangerous silver cages and support each other in the difficult environment to evade capture. However, when they finally find a seemingly safe refuge, they discover that the humans here, though appearing ordinary, possess mysterious powers. Chapter 50. Ezra SPOV. Ezra and Elijah made it out. They climbed out of a small window, covered in dust and blood from where they'd been cut by the sharp edges inside the vent. They had gone all the way down to the basement where the vent ended. The small room had one tiny window. Ezra broke the glass and they carefully climbed out, trying to be as quiet as possible like their mummy told them. They hid in the bushes around the building. Ezra felt his wolf stretch, happy to be outside again in the fresh air. Although the sky was grey and the wind was strong, there was a vampire and a witch walking around. It looks like the wolf is giving them hell. The vampire chuckled. They called for backup. How the hell did she break out of her cage? Who the hell knows? The vampire said. That they gave her a tranquilizer shot. God's eyes won't be pleased when he comes back to find his toy asleep. Better asleep than not there at all. They moved on. Ezra looked at his wide-eyed brother. To my agent extraordinaire, Mylan Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Elijah asked. She's gonna be fine, Ezra said, remembering everything HED overheard. They don't want to hurt her because they want her for tests. Elijah pursed his lips and nodded. The two shifted to their wolves as one and sneaked away from the building. It was in the middle of the woods, and it looked like an old building. Clouds climbed up its sides, and the paint was dirty. Ezra raised his nose to the wind. He remembered his lessons. If he wanted to sneak on someone, he had to make sure he was downwind of them so that they couldn't smell him. There weren't a lot of patrols around, so Elijah and them managed to escape from the sparse trees surrounding the old building into the thick woods. Then they ran. This place didn't smell like the pack. There was salt in the air. The wind was strong and cool. Ezra pricked his ears. Was that the sound of waves? He had only been to the beach once with his mommy and Lydia, but he remembered the sound of the waves. Were they close to a beach? Their mummy told them to find help, but how would they know who to trust? Shes told them to trust their instincts. He should listen to his wolf's instinct. The sound of cars. Ezra glanced at his brother, his ears twitching. They increased their pace until they were within sight of a road. Ezra pulled his brother by his tail using his teeth. What? Elijah growled, snapping his own teeth at his brother. Be careful, Ezra said, pawing the ground. Don't just run to the road. What if someone driving a car is with them? Elijah huffed, stomping his paw on the ground. How do we know who's good and who's bad? Ezra thought about it. Maybe humans can help us. Humans? Yes, if we shift to our skin. The humans won't know we're werewolves, Ezra said. Then we can ask them for a phone and we can call the pack. I remember the phone number. Mom made us learn it. Elijah thought about it. What if the humans work for the bad guys too? Ezra didn't have a response. He tried reaching for his mom, but it felt like she was asleep. What should they do? He felt lost and confused. He just wanted his mommy. He wanted to go back to the pack. His wolf whined. Elijah licked his cheek. Let's just run some more, Elijah said. Ezra nodded. Yes, that was a good idea. If they were far enough from the bad guys, then they might find someone who was not working for them. They waited until the road was clear and crossed it at a run, dashing through the woods. There were mountains in the distance. He didn't know how long they ran until they finally reached a small village. It looked like their pack village. The houses were similar, built in the middle of the woods in a big clearing. Ezra and Elijah hid behind a tree and watched the houses. There were humans around, but they smelled weird. The good kind of weird. They smelled like the earth. Do you think they work for the bad guys? Elijah asked. No, my wolf likes them, Ezra replied, watching as a woman carrying a baby got out of one of the houses. She put the baby on the ground, and the little boy walked unsteadily next to his mother. Me too, Elijah said, sniffing the air. They smell good. And what do we have here? Ezra and Elijah wound, baring their teeth and growling. The big man had sneaked up on them. He was one of the weird humans who smelled good. He was as tall as Jake, and his eyes were brown and wrinkled at the corners, his hair grey and soft-looking. Ezra snapped his teeth, warning him not to get closer. The man held up his hands. Easy now. I'm not going to hurt you. Ezra sniffed the air. The man didn't smell afraid. Still, Ezra nudged his brother behind him and kept his eyes on the man. The human sat down on the ground. Ezra froze, his ears pricking and his head cocked aside. Imkad, the human said. I live in that little village there. What brings you all the way here? Can one of you shift to speak to me? Ezra growled, his claws digging into the soil. Don't shift, Ezra told his brother, then shifted to his skin. The man didn't look surprised. He just smiled. You look a little roughed up, the man said. Ezra looked down at the dry blood on his arms and legs. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilden, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. How did you know we're werewolves? You can't really mistake a wolf for a werewolf, Carl Ed said. How did you boys get here? There aren't any packs on the islands. We're on an island, Ezra asked. Wide-eyed, they were so far away from the pack. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilden, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Carl had frowned a little. Ezra rubbed the dry blood on his arm. Do you work for them? Ezra asked. For who? The immortals there. Ezra pointed to the direction they had come from, way before the road. The human's eyes widened. In the old hospital. You were there. Ezra didn't know if that was a hospital or not. He'd never been to a hospital, so he didn't know what it smelled or looked like. But the building was old, so he nodded. Yes, we escaped. Mommy is still there. She told us to escape and get help. Can you help? Do you have a phone? So the immortals were holding you captive. The human silent stood up. He'll get you boys help, but not here. They might come looking for you soon. I don't want the villagers to be involved. Ezra frowned. So you can't help us? I can't, but I will take you to people who can. Carl had said. Follow me. Ezra and his brother exchanged a look. Ezra shrugged and shifted. The human, Koad, walked them deeper into the woods. Ezra and Elijah trotted after him. The ground got rougher, the woods thicker. It was very dark now. Almost night, dark despite it being the middle of the day. Are we climbing the mountain? Elijah asked, jumping over a boulder, his tongue lolling out. Yeah, Ezra said, looking around. They were going up. He could feel it. He narrowed his eyes on the human. Was it good that they followed him? He didn't look like a bad guy. But Blake had been a member of the pack, too, and he helped the bad guys. So how could he tell who was good and who was bad anyway? Noah and his mommy would tell him to trust his instincts. But Ezra didn't know exactly what that meant. He was worried. His wolf liked the man, so he followed him. Was this what it meant to follow his instincts? Ezra shifted to his skin. Cole had glanced at him over his shoulder, his breathing loud. Will you be okay? Walking barefoot, Ezra jumped up a fallen tree trunk and nodded. Are you human? Ka'ad smiled a little. I am. Why do you ask? Because you smell human, Ezra said. But weird. I got weird, Ezra said. Like the woods and the earth. Not like other humans. The man chuckled. That's good to hear. I guess. I am what they call a native. From the Haida people. Elijah shifted to his skin. Ezra glared at him. One of them should stay wolf. Elijah made a face to his brother and looked at Card. Haida, Elijah asked. Is that like a pack name or something? Twins. That's rare. Card looked back and forth between the two brothers. This place is called Hideaway. It's an archipelago, a group of islands. The Haida people have lived here for thousands of years. So in a way, it is like a pack name. Thousands of years. Elijah's eyes widened. So you're immortal? No, you silly. She is human, Ezra said, rolling his eyes. He means that his grandfather and great-grandfather and great-great-great-grandfather lived here for a long time. Right. Ka'ad said, smiling. He stopped and looked around, then went off to the side. Ezra and Elijah followed him. Wow, that's a big rock, Elijah said. Ezra nodded, looking at the tall, thin boulder standing by itself. Vines climbed the rock, and there were several dark strokes running vertically along its surface. It was colder up here. Ezra sniffed. The rock smelled a little like dry blood. Isn't it? Ka'ad said, crouching in front of the rock. He pulled something from his pocket. A small knife. Ezra watched closely as the human pricked his finger. Blood flowed out of his skin, and he smudged his bleeding finger along the rock in a swipe, mumbling something in an odd language under his breath. Ezra felt something like magic. It tickled his senses. The blood on the boulder brightened for a few moments. The rock seemed to send a flash of light to the sky. It lasted for less than a blink. Then the glow died down and magic disappeared. Ezra blinked hard. Did he imagine it? What did you say? He didn't speak English, Elijah said. Cole had stepped back from the rock and looked down at the twins. No. That was Exe at KL, the language of the Haida people. I called a friend. They'll help you. Are you sure they can help us? Ezra asked, frowning. You are afraid of the immortals. Maybe they'll be too afraid. Tegay chuckled. Don't worry, boy, if anything. Those immortals will be afraid of my friend. Ezra gave him a doubtful look. Come, what's your name? Ezra pursed his lips. Should he tell him his name? Back when they lived outside the pack, his mommy used to tell him not to talk to strangers. But they were no longer there, and Ka'ad was trying to help them, so he wasn't a stranger. In Ezra and in Elijah, his brother said, we're from the Lost Lake pack. Oh, Kurt nodded. You're a long way from home. Is it very far? Elijah asked. Don't worry, Ka'ad said. As soon as my friend arrives, your pack will know you're here. Oh, see, Achia's here already. Ezra and Elijah looked around. Ezra hadn't smelled anything other than the mountain in the faraway sea. He sniffed again. When a tall, weary male appeared from up the mountain, Ezra and Elijah gaped at him. With an ashen skin, curly white hair and long braids over his shoulders, and long fangs sticking out of his lower jaw, he was wearing nothing but a cloth tied around his waist. His eyes were small black beads in his face, and he was holding a thick wooden staff. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Elijah Whisper yelled, gaping. Ezra nodded next to him. The troll looked at the twins, then said something in a strange language. Ka'ad replied, and then they both looked at the twins. Ka'ad stooped down in front of the twins. Listen very carefully. You must seek refuge with the trolls. Seek refuge? Ezra asked, looking over Ka'ad's shoulder to the troll. Yes, they will help you if you do. Ezra thought about it. It sounded like something official, like swearing an oath. What about our mommy? Ezra asked. Ka'ad shook his head, his expression grave. The trolls do not fight other people's battles. They will protect you because you're children, but they won't concern themselves with immortal business. Disappointed, Ezra gave Ka'ad a nod. At least Noah would know where they were soon. Ezra took his brother's hand and stepped up until the two stood right in front of the troll. Ezra craned his neck and swallowed. The troll looked a lot taller up close. We seek refuge, Ezra said. The troll narrowed his eyes. He said something to the man, who laughed a little, then looked down at the twins. Your request is accepted, the troll said in a thick accent and a rough voice. and Ezra felt a flare of magic swallow him and Elijah. It felt nice. You are under our protection. Noah's POV. Noah ran like his life depended on it. Wind flattened his fur. Clouds thickened in the sky, as if a storm gathered in the distance. But Noah knew it was the work of one of the elementals El had asked her father to send. The trolls were waiting for them on the border. 3 long-limbed males stood on the other side of the creek that delineated Noah's territory. Noah shifted mid-step and faced the trolls. The creek between them, Jake and Kate on either side of him in their fur. Greetings. The troll in the middle stepped forward. He looked old, his white hair braided in a long rope down his back. A staff held in his wrinkly right hand. Twin fangs protruded from his lower jaw, curving upward. His white eyebrows were long, hanging off the corners, and the brown cloth wrapped around one shoulder and his lower body edged with fur. Trolls were extremely private. Noah didn't know much about them. Just like the rest of the immortal world, no one even knew if they were truly of the immortal races. Seeing the signs of age on their leader, Noah wondered if they truly aged, or if he just decided to make himself appear that way on purpose, the way some immortals like to do. On another day, he would have been fascinated. Not now. He had more pressing matters on his mind. He glanced at the other 2 trolls, recognizing one as the troll who'd helped Lillian when she'd been attacked by rogues months back. Greetings, Noah said. I'm told you requested my presence. Yes, the elder rested both hands on the knob at the top of his staff. I'm aware your mate and pups have been kidnapped. Noah sucked in a sharp breath. Right now, knowledge of Lillian and the twins' kidnapping was widespread among immortals. Noah had a feeling the trolls didn't participate in the immortals' train of gossip. How did you know? Observing carefully. Were they involved? But that didn't make any sense. Why would they kidnap Lillian and the twins? We know. The wind speaks to us, the elder said. It brings us word from our folk in the far corners of the world. Hope unfurled in Noah's chest. He took a step forward. What do you know? From the islands known to humans as Hideaway, the elder said, his voice thin and reedy. Noah frowned. The elder continued. Our folk sent word on the wind. Your little ones are with them. Noah's heart raced. The twins. Yes, wolf pups. The elder nodded. They sought refuge with our relatives in Hideaway. We folk of the mountain do not disturb us with the matters of immortals and humans. But the core of a child must not be forsaken. It is sacred. Hideaway. Noah said through his link to Sean. Send word to Arthur. There in Hideaway. Our folk will not give the twins to outsiders. The elder continued, glancing at the male beside him. Mata will go with you. We folk of the mountain do not trust outsiders. You must go bring them home. The troll hesitated. Noah waited, sensing the elder had more to say. After a long sigh. Someone has been messing with the life of magic on Hideaway, making unnatural waves that disturb the earth. Our folk are struggling. We saved your little ones. Blood eye us. Noah gave a firm nod. You saved our pups. We will save your relatives' home. Well, take care of it. The troll made a grunt. It is not expected. We save the little ones because their nature's protected. We know the word of immortals cannot always be trusted. The elder turned and started walking away with the other troll. My word can be trusted. Noah told him. The elder paused and glanced over his shoulder. We will see. Arthur sent his people ahead to check Hideaway. Sean linked him. The trolls on the island won't show themselves to his people. Noah linked, watching as the troll left behind. Murto jumped over the creek, almost flying, as if he rode the currents of the wind. How will we get the twins? To my agent extraordinaire, Madame Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. We have a troll coming with us, Noah said. Sean paused, his silence stunned. I will relay the message. Let's go, Noah said, then ran, taking a short cut to the vehicle shed. The troll matched Noah's ruthless pace. As they ran, he gave his orders to the warriors he trusted. The pack would stay under lock and key until he returned. He would take a few soldiers with him, and Jake would coordinate with Jensen and Benjamin's soldiers to cover the security for his pack. They reached the shed. Noah put on a pair of shorts from the stack of clothes they kept in the shed, tucked the key from the wall and headed to the car. Motto hesitated next to the door. Noah felt a spark of magic, and the earth near the troll's feet roiled and turned, then opened and vomited a piece of dark clothing. Motto picked up the cloak and put it on, tugging the hood overhead to cover his face. Noah's brows disappeared up his hairline. He had no idea trolls had such tricks. He didn't think anyone truly knew what trolls were capable of. They got in the car and Noah drove on. "Thank you," Noah said, "for saving Liliana's life months ago." Motto was quiet, until Noah thought he wouldn't reply. Then, "I did not do it for gratitude." And Noah drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. "You're kinda not known for interfering in other races' business." Motto looked out the window. "Yes, we have been thus because that is the way of the world. When a fight is not yours, you do not interfere. We've learned it the hard way." Noah frowned. He didn't know what the troll meant. He had a feeling there was history behind those words. Trolls were extremely private creatures. Noah didn't know much about them past which he learned in school. He should probably ask Arthur. The old vampire lord would know. Two of Arthur's vampires waited for them right outside the pack in a vehicle. Noah ditched his car there and linked one of the warriors to retrieve it. The two female vampires gave Motto a look, but didn't comment when he rode in the back seat with Noah. The driver steered the car like a speed maniac. They reached Arthur's private hangar in minutes. Matt's lip curled in an expression of disgust at the sight of the jet, but he didn't make any objections as they headed towards it. Strong wind howled, rattling the car's door as Noah opened it. Arthur and Elle stood near the steps to the airplane. Elle's eye was a bright green, her magic a blazing storm. She narrowed her gaze at Motto. "Will the plane be okay in this weather?" Noah asked, coming to a stop near them with the troll in tow. "Yes," was Arthur's response. He looked at the troll. "Greetings to the mountain folk." Motto peered from the cover of his hood at Arthur. "Greetings to the first liberator." Elle looked as confused by the term as Noah. Arthur waved him in. Noah went ahead, impatient to be on the way, and Motto followed, with Arthur and Elle behind. They all sat in silence as the plane took off. The clouds seemed to clear up, the winds quieting down until they were airborne. "What's the first liberator?" Elle asked. Surprisingly, it was Motto who answered, his voice scratchy. "The 5 were the ones who liberated the world from the evils of the first gate. Thus the name," Arthur said, leaning back in his seat. He clasped his hands on the table. "It has been ages since I last saw one of your kind." "So I have been told," Motto said. Elle shifted in her seat, glancing at the troll every so often. Arthur said, "You may ask, my love." Elle perked up and straightened in her seat, fixing Motto a green stare. "The trolls are immortals, right? How come you're very reclusive? Do you just prefer isolation?" "That is a question you must ask your people." Noah was surprised to hear the vehemence in Motto's words. Elle blinked, taken aback as well. Arthur sighed. "It's a history the Phi have gone to great lengths to suppress. To my agent extraordinaire, Myelin Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Elle asked, frowning. "You know there are 4 main races of immortals." Arthur said, "Vampires, Phi and Shapeshifters. All immortals fall under one of these 4 categories. The wind shifters, for example, are a sub-race of the Shapeshifters. They may not be able to shift entirely, but they are still Shapeshifters." Noah understood where Arthur was going with it, and so did Elle. She glanced at Motto. "So the trolls are Phi?" "Yes," Arthur replied. "But why would the Phi want to keep it a secret?" Elle asked. "Because we look like this," Motto said, throwing the hood off his head. His curling fangs gleamed under the jet's light. Elle frowned. "I don't." All immortals have human appearances, Arthur said. After the gate was sealed, humans dealt with immortals cautiously, but the troll's appearance reminded the humans too much of the creatures that came from the other realm. They shunned the trolls, knowing they were part of the Fae. Humans shunned the rest of the Fae as well. We immortals needed humans back then. We needed the benefit of their trade in civilizations while things settled down and we developed ours. The Fae couldn't afford to be discriminated against if they wanted to survive. Arthur sighed heavily, closing his eyes. A troubled expression tightened his features. So the Fae made the decision to get rid of the trolls. They hunted them down and culled them. Elle's head leaned back. That's horrible. No one did anything about it. Back then, every race had their own issues. Things were just settling down. We made rules to live with each other. The most important was not to get involved in other races' issues. Arthur sighed. The Fae dealt with their problems as they saw fit. And no one wanted to stir trouble and break the new laws when things were just starting to settle down. Noah frowned. That law was still held up to this day. It was one of the laws that kept the precarious balance of the world. We should have stopped the Fae. We overlooked a genocide because we wanted to protect that rule, but sometimes the right and wrong do not align with our laws. Arthur shook his head. The way we have handled the situation with the trolls remains one of my life's biggest regrets. A heavy silence claimed the jet. So the trolls went into hiding? Noah asked. Yes, Arthur replied. They claimed mountains and caves and lived in seclusion. The rough terrain usually deterred other races from going there, but it was still a massacre. Troll numbers have been reduced by more than 3/4 back then. Elle's fingers absently caressed the hilt of her sword. I apologize. Glancing at the troll for a brief moment before looking away. I know it doesn't make a difference, but muttered Figstail with his black eyes. The sins of our fathers do not define us, he said after a long pause. Our lives are what they are. The past remains the past. Noah frowned, remembering something the other troll had said. Your elder mentioned something about messing with the life of magic on Heidic Way. What did he mean? Over the past years, someone has been using unnatural magic immortals who have been visiting the islands. Our folk noticed the waves of imbalance in the magic during those visits. Mutto said, they are making something unnatural, messing with matters that must not be touched. Arthur linked his hands in a fist and put them under his chin. If we had a way of communicating with trolls, there is so much we wouldn't have missed. So much information lost because of our past sins. Immortals lost a great ally in the trolls because of their past sins. Noah hoped Lillian wouldn't be the one to pay for them. Chapter 51. Lillian was brought awake by freezing water. Blas Aya's face filled her blurry vision. Where are the twins? She was sitting on a chair, chained by silver chains. Blas Aya's crouched in front of her, inside the now uncage. She shivered, the chill of the water seeping into her bones. She was only wearing a t-shirt. She must have shifted in her sleep. Well, at least they had the decency to partially cover her. Where are they? His face a mask of fury. Lillian smiled. Blas Aya's nostrils flared. His chest expanded with a deep breath, and he backhanded her. The slap echoed in the room, whipping her head around until her neck hurt and her brain jolted. Lillian tasted her blood. Blas Aya stood up and straightened his sleeves. No one was around except for him. Call them here. Right now. I know you can link them. Lillian laughed. She couldn't help herself. If he actually believed she would call them back here, he must be delusional. I'm not calling them anywhere. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience and enthusiasm. Lillian called through the link. She could feel him, but the link was stretched so tight. Her words were lost before they traveled across the distance. They were alive but far from her, and the link felt peaceful. Lillian's heart settled. For the first time since she was kidnapped, she felt like she could breathe. Whatever happened to her now, she didn't care. The twins were safe. Call them here. Right now. Blas Aya said again. pointing his finger in her face. "Or I will make you do it. And you won't like it." Lillian leaned forward as much as her chains allowed her and fixed Blas eyes with a look. "Nothing will make me call them back." A vein pulsed in his temple, and Lillian could almost smell his anger. He drew his hand back. It glowed a pale yellow, and slapped her. His hand was hot against her face. Lillian's cheek felt on fire, and she smelled burning skin. Blas' hand glowed a pale yellow. The color faded as he reached forward and gripped her hair, pulling her head back until Lillian was sure her neck would snap. "You will regret it," he said in a low voice. "I will make you live every single nightmare you ever had." Lillian bared her teeth in a feral grin. "You can do whatever you want. As long as the twins are safe, you have no power over me. You pathetic excuse of a person. You might think you're all that. But look at you. Cornered into hiding and chased by immortals all over the world." Blas' face turned a bright red. His grip tightened on her head. A loud knock interrupted him. Then the door was shoved open. It banged against the wall, and a wide-eyed witch stood there, gasping for breath. "What?" Blas' snarled at the witch. "Sir, there is, speak." "Man," Blas' said. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." The man sputtered. "Arthur is on the island." Blas' froze, and Lillian smelled his fear. He dropped her head as if it burned him and pointed at the witch. His face snapped into a cold mask. He held out his hand. "Give me your daggers." "What?" "Your daggers," Blas' cried. The witch unstrapped the daggers from his thigh sheaths. He gave them to Blas'. Blas' turned toward her, his cold eyes on her thighs, dread tight and Lillian's stomach. He pulled his hands back, raising the daggers. Lillian struggled, but she could not move an inch in her chains. He brought the daggers down on her thighs. Lillian screamed. She felt the bones break and the blade stick to the chair beneath her. Blood poured out of her thighs. Her vision blurred. She heard Blas' give out orders as if from underwater. "Keep her silvered and alive," he barked out. Then he was out of the door. Nose POV. The jet landed in a port city on the west coast of British Columbia. "Noah, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Elle and the troll, Motto, found Harvey waiting for them in a boat shortly before nightfall. The vampire had ditched his signature three-piece suit in favor of a black t-shirt, jeans and combat boots. His hair was still brushed back in an expensive-looking hairstyle. "Any news?" Arthur asked after the boat was sailing through the water. The vampire, one of Arthur's people, manned the cockpit. The continuous motion made Noah wish he was on firm ground. The sky had darkened into the colors of dusk, and stars dotted the sky, unable to wait for nightfall to sparkle. Salty wind whizzed by, ruffling Noah's hair as he gripped the rails on the side of the boat, looking at the dark shadows in the distance. "Hideaway, our men are scouring the islands," Harvey replied, raising his voice over the wind. "We're getting more men up here. Alpha Benjamin's tracker is trying to pinpoint the latest immortal scent. From what we found so far, they have big numbers." Elle stood quietly next to Noah. Watto had taken a spot in the back of the boat. He looked at ease with the rocking of the boat. "Nice style," Elle called out. Harvey gave her a wink from the other side of the boat next to Arthur. "I look good in everything." "My dear." Elle rolled her eyes. They reached the archipelago after the night had claimed the world. They left the boat and its captain anchored in a small, old dock tucked in the wilderness. Noah jumped out of the boat, eager to be on the way, and they all went into the thick wood. A gust of wind blew, rustling the plants and tree canopy overhead. Motto, who had taken the lid, raised his head and sniffed the air. He shrugged off the cloak, and the ground opened and swallowed it. Elle whistled. "They are waiting. Let's go," Motto said before he started running. They kept a ruthless pace. Marto sailed over the ground, loose-limbed and boneless. Noah felt his bond to Lydian stretch and pulse. She was alive and nearby, but still out of reach. He felt the twins as well, but their link was covered by a blanket of warm, earthy energy. It must have something to do with the trolls. No matter how much he reached for them, the energy warded off his links. But they were alive. The confirmations purred him and refueled his energy. The wind grew colder as they traveled to higher grounds. They ran for what felt like hours, the moon glowing through the trees. When they stopped, it was on a small clearing near a cliff. Noah breathed in deeply. The scenery below the cliff stretched for miles, and far in the distance he could see lights twinkling. Some kind of village or small human settlement. Perhaps. Motto. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Seemed to have gotten taller, surrounded by the wooded mountains. What were we waiting for? Elle asked, looking around. Her breath fogged in the air. They're coming, Motto said, turning to face the woods behind them. Looking up the mountain, Noah wanted to shift to his wolf and run to scour the islands for Lillian and the twins. He shifted on his feet, impatient. Then he smelled the twins in the air, and he ran. Noah, Elle called after him. The twins grew closer as he ran up the wooded landscape. His eyes looked through the trees and the rocks and the darkness of the night, zeroing in on 3 distant figures striding down towards him. The 2 brown wolf pups paused, and then they, too, were sprinting towards him, their little barks echoing, warming the cold air of the night. Their fur rippled in the wind, catching the stubborn moonlight beams that managed to find their way through the trees. Wolfish grins showed sharp little teeth, their tongues lolling to the side. A grin stretched across Noah's face, his chest expanding with such relief it was a wonder his heart didn't implode. He crouched down and braced for the impact of those little bodies. They crashed into him, barking and licking his face, crushed between his arms and his chest but not seeming to mind. Noah kissed their heads and breathed in their scent. The magic that was blanketing them slid away with a whoosh. Then their voices filled his head. Noah, Noah, you're here. We should go get Mommy. She's still there. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Noah said, pulling away with great reluctance. Elle and Arthur were beside them, and Motto and the troll who accompanied the twins stood to the side, speaking in low voices. The twins sat down, their wagging tails brushing the ground. Noah scanned them for injuries. There was a hint of old blood in their smell, but he could see no bleeding wound, and the scent of lingering silver was very faint. You're okay? Patting their necks. They nodded as one. Elle stooped down and tickled behind their ears. Yes, but Mommy. Ezra linked him, a whine escaping his wolf's throat. Well, get your mum, Noah said. Why don't you shift and tell us what happened? The twins shifted to their skin. The sight of dried blood and dirt covering their bodies made him growl. He checked them again. They were uninjured. He shrugged off his tea, shirt and watched as Arthur did the same. Then the twins were wearing them. They slipped off one shoulder and hung off their bodies, almost brushing the ground. Noah hugged them tightly, his throat tight. They were safe. Ezra's shoulders were tight, and his face was screwed into a determined scowl with pursed lips and furrowed brows, his throat bobbing repeatedly. He was trying not to cry. Noah sat down and Elijah settled down in his lap, leaning his head against Noah's chest. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. We should. Ezra sniffed and swallowed. We should go back to Mommy. Noah pulled him against his chest and rubbed his back. After a second, he smelled the salty tang of Ezra's tears. He cried quietly, his tears dampening Noah's skin and his little shoulders jerking. Elijah clung to Noah's neck tightly. as if afraid if he let go he would be taken again. Noah swore he would make Blas regret the day he set his sights on his family. Arthur was watching the twins with an impassive face, but a dark fury lingered in his eyes. After a few minutes, the twins calmed down. "Okay, boys," Hardy said, sitting on his haunches. "Do you think you can tell us what happened?" Elijah's arms tightened around Noah's neck, not letting go. Ezra wiped his face with his forearm, sniffed, and turned to face Harvey, still sitting on Noah's lap. "Blake," Ezra said. "Blake helped them take us. I remember him a little. But then we fell asleep again and we woke up in cages. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Elle asked, her eye glowing green in the darkness of the woods. "Yeah," Ezra swallowed. "Silver cages. We linked Mommy and she told us to escape. So we did." Elle raised her brows. "You escaped the cages." Huh," Elijah said, his face still pressed against Noah. "We stole the keys from the witch. We opened our cages and climbed through the air vent." Pride flared in Noah's chest. "And then we found Mommy," Ezra said, "but she hadn't fitted into the vent, so she told us to go. And we escaped. Then we found Card." "Whose Card?" Noah asked. "A human," Ezra said. "One of the native Haida people." The troll who accompanied the twins said. Noah almost forgot he was there. "Yeah, a Chiesa native," Ezra said. He called Hoya then left. Hoya must be the troll. "Oh, we should also help the other kids," Elijah said. No froze. "There are other kids. There's a big boy and a little girl," Ezra said. "They're also in cages. The big boy also didn't fit into the vent, and the little girl was asleep. That's why they didn't come with us." Noah met Arthur's eyes over twins' heads. "Do you remember the way there?" Arthur asked. It was Hoya who answered, his voice deep. "I know the location. Immortals have claimed an old hospital for the past several years." Noah's heart clenched, his breath turning to lead in his lungs. A hospital. The last time Lillian had been kidnapped into a hospital had been a horror for her. He truly hoped she wouldn't go through something similar again. Just the thought filled him with rage and terror. A few immortals have been coming and going over the years, but only recently did they come in large numbers and intensified their magic practices. Hoya continued, curling his nose in disgust. "Whatever they are doing there is not natural." "No, it isn't," Arthur said. "Well, take care of it if you show us the location. We appreciate your help." Mato and Hoya exchanged a look. Then Hoya stepped forward. "I will come along. This is our home." Arthur arched a brow. "Having a troll in our ranks is a gift." "I am, however, surprised that you would choose to get involved." Hoya made an noise close to growling. "The world has changed. It is still changing. The old ways must be broken if the mountain folk are to survive in this new world. Our young are more open to change than our elders," Mato added, standing tall next to his brethren. "But even the old ones realize the need to adjust." Arthur stepped close to the trolls and held out his hand. "It will be an honor to fight alongside one of your kind again. To a better future." Hoya stepped forward and clasped Arthur's forearm, as Arthur did the same. "To a fairer world." Hoya pointed out the location of the old hospital in a map on Harvey's phone. Arthur sent word to his men already on the islands to head there and scout the area. Elijah hung on Noah's back, and Ezra on Harvey's, and they all ran down the mountain, the trolls sailing over the ground next to them. Harvey received an update from his men. "Blas knows the twins have escaped." Pocketing his phone as he ran, he sent out several search parties all over the island. "We intercepted one nearby." "Good," Arthur said. "Let's go meet them. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. They will be able to give us an idea on what is waiting for us in the location." "Will the human who helped the twins be okay?" Elle asked. jumping over a thin creek running across their path. The natives will be safe, Goya said, his voice clear to No's ears despite the current hushing past his ears, as if the wind itself carried the troll's words. The trees grew sparser as the ground leveled out. The sound of a nearby village, roads and people reached No's ears. The scent of immortals rode the wind to his nose. This way, Harvey said, veering to the side. They went down a steep hill. No reached behind him to steady Elijah on his back, his feet skidding on the ground as pebbles and trolled downward. They found Arthur's people, 2 vampires and a witch, in a clearing at the bottom of the hill. The moon sent silvery beams, illuminating the 2 witches kneeling on the ground in the middle of Arthur's men. Blood dried on their faces, and their hands were clasped up behind their head. They must be Blaz. Noah recognized one of Arthur's vampires. She was the one they'd met at Senator Bray's house. Sama. Elijah's arms tightened on Noah's neck as he peered over his shoulder at the witches. Do you recognize them? Noah asked. The witches looked up, their breaths freezing before their hearts raced, their wide eyes settling on Arthur. Arthur put Ezra down, his hand resting on the pup's head for an instant, before he stepped forward. Yes, Elijah whispered. Archias, the one who had the keys to the cages. Noah's wolf packed up, scenting prey nearby. Putting Elijah down next to Ezra, El stood over them. A flame of blue flared in the dark pupil of her eye. Noah stepped forward next to Arthur and Harvey, his eyes on the witches. How many people do they have? Harvey asked. Right now, there are about 5 search parties dispatched to find the twins, Salma said. Every search party has 2 individuals. Arthur said, stooping down. The witch's fear stank the air. Arthur looked between the 2 males. So, kidnapping children. That's a new low. We were just hired muscle. My lord, one of them said. Sweat gleamed on his forehead like water under the moonlight. We didn't know what he was up to. A person should have principles. Arthur murmured. Just because someone offers you money doesn't mean you should do their bidding. Children are a red line in our world. Mercy, my lord, the other said, swallowing thickly. How many people does he have? Arthur asked. The 2 witches looked at each other. Noah growled. The witches jumped. How many? About 35 contracted immortals, one of the witches said. Vampires? Noah asked. 20 witches. The witch replied. 7 vampires. And 3 Shapashetas. That's 30. Eugenius, Harvey said, crossing his arms. You said 35. The witch frowned, his pulse skittering. The other witch simply said, I think there are more vampires then. Noah growled. They just had to capture the idiots of the bunch. What else? Noah asked. His own men and women are about. I think 20 witches and 10 vampires. Harvey sighed, shaking his head. I don't trust these numbers. Let's just round it up to 100 and be safe, Noah said, glancing back at the trolls who'd disappeared into the shadows of the trees. Goya nodded. That sounds correct. The witches startled. They hadn't noticed the trolls. Noah himself would have found it difficult to smell them. Their scent was just as similar to the essence of the mountains and woods around. It almost blended in. Now, the layout of the place, Noah said, digging his claws in the witch's shoulder. Speak. The witches were more or less helpful. The hospital was in the middle of the wood. Blaz had not made any great modifications, so the windows were unbarred and there was a back door and a front door. There were several security perimeters around the location, but with the twins gone, Blaz would increase security. Arthur stood up. Let's move in. Now that the twins are gone, Blaz is a flight risk. He might choose to change locations if he feels this one is compromised. He has Lillian, Noah said. He might try to use her as a shield or a hostage to get out of the island. Harvey nodded his agreement. Arthur and Elle should move in on the front, Harvey said. Blaz would be wary of Arthur. He'll focus all his men and powers on them. Noah should sneak in through the back and try to get to Lillian. Will Mommy be okay? Ezra whispered. Noah faced the twins, lowering himself to their level. Your mother will be fine. You'll bring her back. Ezra nodded reluctantly. Harvey called for more backup. The people he had on the Ida were around 50 immortals. More were coming in from nearby territories, but they couldn't afford to wait. As Ayas could choose to flee any moment. All of a sudden, Noah felt his bond with Lillian twist painfully. He grunted, closing his eyes against the pain and the abrupt loss of the link. She must have been silvered. We need to move. Feeding his wolf shaft to the surface. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Arthur asked. Noah nodded. Harvey pursed his lips. They must know something is up. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Noah didn't want to be apart from the twins. He wanted to open his refuge and tuck them inside right, next to his heart where they'd be safe. But he needed to move forward and get their mother back. While Arthur and his people discussed the particulars of their plan, Noah stepped aside with motto. Surprisingly, he was the only one with whom his wolf felt the twins would be safe. I would like you to look after the twins, Noah said. The troll's black eyes caught the light as he shifted his head. After a long pause, he held out his forearm. Noah clasped it. Understood, Motto said. They will be safe. The twins seemed to take a liking to the trolls, because they didn't seem too heartbroken to be apart from Noah. You like the trolls? He asked them, holding them both in his arms before he had to be apart from them again. Yeah, they're like the woods, Elijah said. Our wolves like them, Ezra added. You'll bring back Mommy, right? Elijah asked, his blue eyes shimmering with faith and hope. Noah nodded. Yes, I will. Hoya led them to a high spot in the woods surrounding the old hospital. Can you climb? The troll asked El, putting his white hand on the bark of an old tree. El was responsible for providing the first distraction so Noah could sneak in. El rolled back her shoulders and launched herself at the tree, then climbed it like a little monkey, her feet and arms blurring. Noah raised his brows. Hoya choked on his breath. She can climb, the troll said, his eyes following Elle as she scurried upward. Arthur smiled a little. She grew up in the woods. Glancing at the troll, you may find you to share many similarities. Noah looked up. Elle had climbed all the way up the tall fir. She settled on a branch. It weighed under her weight, but she didn't seem to care. She gave Noah a thumbs up. Good luck, her voice carrying to his sensitive ears. Noah, Harvey and Salma set off to the old building. The trees blurred past him, dark shadows melting into the night. They met the first line of the enemy's security a few minutes later. Noah stopped and held up his hand. His two companions froze. To witches. The majority of Blas As forces seemed composed of witches in a big part. Then vampires. Noah crouched behind a tree, his legs coiled. Salma and Harvey blending in the shadows nearby. The two witches were around 100 feet away. He tracked them with his eyes as they moved through the trees, his wolf pushing to the surface, eager for a hunt. Then he sneaked, sprinting on quiet feet towards them. Once he was within distance, the witch didn't have the chance to scream. Noah's claws swiped through his neck, spraying blood and severing arteries. He made a gurgling sound and staggered. In the same instant, the other witch raised his arms, his mouth open to call for help or to warn others. Noah grabbed the man's hair and pulled his head down to his knee, breaking his nose and teeth. The witch's hands grabbed Noah's thigh and magic flared. Pain bit Noah's leg. He twisted the witch head, breaking his neck, and threw him aside. The first witch raised one hand, the other busy holding his bleeding neck. A snake of shadows crawled out of his sleeve and struck at Noah. Noah dodged and lunged, punching the bleeding witch with enough force to twist his head and crack his neck. He dropped next to his friend. Harvey and Salma appeared beside him. Selma looked at the two fallen witches, remind never to get in a fist fight with a werewolf. Taking a dagger out of the thigh she strapped to her jeans, she slid the blade into the witch's chest, finishing him, then did the same to the other. "Let's go," Harvey said. They found one more round of security patrol. Harvey took care of them with the help of his illusion magic. Noah watched from the distance as a black fog clouded the witch and the two froze, looking around but unable to see Harvey coming for them. The fog thickened as Harvey entered it, obscuring Noah's view. When the fog dispersed, Harvey was standing over the unmoving corpses of the two. "Is the fog real or not?" Selma asked when they joined Harvey. "I can't tell. Would it have blocked their sight if it was just an illusion?" Noah asked, genuinely curious as well. Harvey gave them a sly smile. "My gift is called an illusion because I want it to be called so." Who said anything about it actually being a simple illusion? Cunning vampire. They reached the old hospital seconds after that. There were more patrols surrounding the clear area immediately around the building. A few trucks parked nearby, and people were moving about, as if readying to leave. Some of them were transporting large crates from the hospital to the trucks. Noah and the two vampires rounded the building, keeping out of sight, until they reached the back door. There was less activity there, probably because the door was blocked shut by thick wooden bars, and there were no windows on the ground floor. Now Harvey asked. Noah nodded, waiting for him to take out his phone in order to signal to Arthur and Elle that they were ready for the distraction. Harvey's eyes glazed over. After a few moments, he blinked and nodded at Noah. So Arthur was able to communicate telepathically with people other than his mate. Noah focused on the task at hand. The second-floor windows were too high. They would have to go through the door. Blue fireworks filled the sky. He heard an explosion and saw the blue glow of fire coming from around the building. Screams and calls for help. The few immortals lingering around the back door went around the building to offer assistance. Noah took off. He reached the door, gripped the first bar and pulled. It cracked outward with a loud noise that was drowned by Elle's fireworks. Harvey and Selma took care of a couple of more bars. In a minute, the door was clear. He took a running start and hit it with his shoulder. It exploded inward and they slipped inside to a long hallway. The doors lining the hallway were closed. They checked them, but they were either empty or filled with broken furniture. The door on the other end of the hallway had two glass panels. Noah pressed against the door and peeked through the glass. Another hallway. This one seemed more alive. People were rushing from some of the rooms down the curvy hallway, but there was one room whose guards didn't move. Two vampires stood on either side of it, their attention on the hallway's other exit. No doubt, they were curious about what was happening. Noah drew in a breath. Lydian smell. He barely held himself from barging through. After a few minutes, the hallway emptied except for the two vampire guards. The sound of explosions outside was still overpowering. Elle was truly going at it. Who was peeking through the other panel across from him, pointed at Selma. The woman, crouching between them, twirled two small throwing daggers in her hands. Harvey held up 3 fingers. To one, they pushed open the door. The two vampires whirled towards them. Then each of them had a dagger sticking out of his throat. "You might be as fast to draw as Elle," Harvey said, striding forward. Noah was already at the door. Lydian's smell intensified. He broke open the door with his shoulder, and his heart stopped. "Lillian,"